Hi, it's Nick here. A little update for the 33 Hotrod. So what we've been up to today is trying to find room for all of the ISIS modules. And here's what we've come up with. Now if you're looking at the blog, you probably saw this in progression. But what it boils down to is the power cell, the front power cell is here. The master cell here. This is the power steering box, which we're going to extend the wires up from the power steering motor. And this is the decoded digital brain. Of course, that feeds all of the sending units for the 6 gauges in the dash. And it's all connected with one Cat5 wire. So that's what we've come up with the front half of the car. Of course, now we've got the main wiring that's coming down the side of the car, and we'll run to the front. That'll be for the headlights, all of the switches that are up front. So there are all the elements that are up front: the headlights, the signals, the fan, and the one switch is up front is on the radiator fan thermostat switch. Then, of course, the rest of the wiring from the primary circuit will go underneath the tunnel and come up underneath the dashboard and through the tunnel. We had to fit the air conditioning unit today so that we could just make sure we had enough room for all of the wiring harnesses that have to be made now. These wiring harnesses from the ISIS system, these now will go to all the switches. So when all the devices are powered through a power cell, then all of the switches, the power window switches, the one button start switch, the headlight switch, the wiper switch, the fan override switch, that of course will all get their low voltage to ground. So those switches will all switch to ground with these low voltage wires from the master cell. Coming from the back, the main power for the master cell and for the battery comes up. I might have gone, well, I hope I've gone enough. We went with 1 gauge battery cable all the way through, right through to the distributor and to the starter. And we just went with a negative shut-off switch. I know it's not the controversy is not finished on whether it should be a positive switch or a negative switch. I've gone with a negative one, so it would be just like disconnecting the battery cable. In the back, we have another power cell on the left here. This power cell will feed power to all of the rear things, including the fuel pump, all the rear lights, tail lights even, the signal lights, all of that. And that module there, that's an in-motion module. That's the one that, well, it's really a power cell, but it has polarity. So in motion, rather than just have all of the polarity managed at the switch, the polarity for a power window motor or power door locks, in, out, up, down, is all managed by in motion by another type of power cell. And so that one, we haven't even got the harnesses in yet, but those wiring harnesses will come up through the body and down through the tunnel and meet up with the center console switches. Then, of course, we've got some cabling that goes in underneath for the fuel pump, etc. So it'll get tidy. Over a period of time, it'll look a little tidier. But at the end of the day, I think we've got less wiring outside the car, which is really what the goal was, and a lot more technology you know, in the car. Now, the reason we went here, we were able to mount all of the stuff behind the dashboard, where formerly the brakes, the master cylinders for the regular factory 5 brake system would be. But we kind of modified all of that because we've gone with power brakes. This is a power brake unit that's supplied by Whippy Motor Car, Jeff Collins. And so that's all bleeded up and ready to go. I got a nice pedal, good pressure. When we fired the engine, we saw that vacuum. So we were good to go there. And now we just have to make sure that when we install the body, that we use one of Tim Whitaker's from Kootenai Valley's custom dashboard covers. We'll probably cover it in carbon fiber like vinyl, but we'll make access holes in the dashboard. The body is up here, up on the hoist. So when the body goes on, we'll want the decoded digital dashboard in the middle, to make it period correct. But we'll cut the fiberglass and make big access holes right behind the steering wheel here so that we're able to get to all of this. Plus, we'll have the access panel that's on the cowl if we need to get access on either side. But I just can't imagine not having access from under the dash. So we'll cut an access panel hole in the dashboard fiberglass and then cover it up with a panel from Kootenai Valley. You know, trim that out and bring that carbon fiber look into the car's doors and then down the center console. And that's a center console that came from Dr. Dan Ruth at Innovative Hot Rods. Of course, it's not been cut yet. And then we have to modify at the back. That console ends about here, and then we'll have to make some sort of boxer armrest that'll cover the wires that will be coming through there. From a stereo perspective, all the components are bought. They're going to fit in the center console. I've got a suspicion I'm probably going to go with a 4-inch kicker, 75 watts, very small, but 75 watts RMS per side. Up here, they're just 4-inch, and they'll probably fit, well, they will fit right in this kick panel, and we'll trim the insides when we're doing the interior. Then I'll probably go with component speakers. Haven't decided on which ones, but I may look at the kickers as well. They've got a new series this year that I want to take a look at. I haven't bought the speakers yet, but we'll put those somewhere in the waterfall, because it would look to me as though I've got plenty of depth back here to get the speakers mounted in this somewhere blindly, and I'll probably put them behind the fiberglass and then just drill holes in the leather so that you won't actually see the covers or anything. You may see the tweeters in the doors. From an amplifier perspective, we went with a small Kenwood reference series Exelon amplifier. It's very small. It's only about 10 inches square, and it will sit back here in the trunk, and the power will feed just the 4 speakers. And then behind the driver's seat, we've got a kicker 8-inch self-powered subwoofer that'll sit behind the driver's seat. There's enough room. It's only about 2 3/4 inches deep. I don't know how well it'll work, but it'll offer some sort of balance of bass inside. Overall, there'll be RMS. There will be 400 watts RMS from the rear amp, 75 to the front, 125 to each of the rears, and then 150 watts for the kicker. And then we've gone with a Clarion single DIN flip-up face stereo with a backup camera and Navi, satellite radio. Oh man, there's just a ton of stuff we've got to fit in behind the dash. That console will sit roughly about 16 inches back from the firewall, so it'll start here and work its way back down the tunnel, kind of in the position that it's in right now. Well, actually, it would be right about there. And we'll put on here, we'll put the heating controls at this level, with the single DIN stereo at that level, and all the window controls at that level. And because, of course, we're using low voltage, the ISIS system, there's absolutely no power going to those switches, so we can use micro switches. They're billet aluminum, small diameter micro switches, one for up, one for down. They're just single pole, single throw switches, and that's the way they can go. That's the advantage of some of the ISIS things, because my ability to wire a car, not good. This ISIS thing, once you wrap your head around it, it just feels, I feel more confident in my ability to wire this. But you've just got to remember that power goes to the power cell, the item is grounded, but the only way that the power goes to that is through a switch, a low voltage switch. So, for example, if I want the headlights to go on, all I do is take the lead that goes from the headlight, one lead to the headlight switch, the other side of the switch goes to ground. When you push the button to turn the headlights on, it goes to ground. The master cell says, oh, he shorted out this wire, therefore sends a signal to this power cell saying send power through the fuse to the headlamps. It's all programmed. If it's a signal, if it's a blinker, it blinks. If it's a brake light, it brakes, and you use a brake light switch. So you really just kind of have to wire. There's no power at any of the switches, I guess is the point. All the switches are just shorted to ground, and the master cell then knows what device you're trying to turn on or turn off or make blink. So it's quite an interesting setup, and I'm sure a lot of you know about it, but I think I'd recommend it in this car. There is a lot more, I think, things to have to hide, but from what I saw with the Ron Francis wiring kit, there seems to be a lot less wire, and I mean in bulk. For example, that little half-inch tube is not full. I mean, it's not full at that wrap, that ultra wrap, and that's all the wires for the front of the car in that. So that's the front harness, and it's wound up here. I haven't done anything with it, and I'll spread it all out through the front of the car neatly, of course. But basically, that's it. There are, these harnesses have got to be bundled up, but most of these wires won't get used. And then this will all be nice and neat and come down here. And here's the master ground, so most all the switches will ground to this grounding block. And I do have a power bar inside their power block for some of the things that aren't running through ISIS. The things that aren't running through ISIS is the air conditioning unit, the dashboard, and the because it needs constant power. And just one more other thing, I can't remember offhand what it is, but everything else is managed by the ISIS system. All right, well, that's the update. That's where we are today. And today is what is today? February the 20. It's Sunday, February the 20-something. I'll have to check, and you can see it. I'll post all these pictures, and I'll post some comments and pretty much everything that we've talked about on this video up on the Low and Tubbed blogspot.com through Google. Anyway, have a great day, everybody. That's a 12-minute video. My goodness, it must be enormous.